And we're back to look at some more problems. So this next one says, find the length of arc PQ. Now, it's important what it tells you that you're finding the length of, because if it didn't want PQ, if it wanted QS, well, QS would have a different angle than QP. Or if it said QSP, well, that would have a different angle as well. So you need to be very, very careful when reading. So this says PQ, which would be 75 degrees. So for our arc length, it's always the angle over 360. So in this case, 75 over 360 equals x over, and we need to remember that arc length goes with circumference. So for circumference, if we go back up to this formula, I have two options. I can do 2 pi r, or pi times the diameter. Well, they gave me the diameter when they write 9 in the middle like that. So I'm going to use pi d for circumference. So pi times 9 would just make the circumference 9 pi. You're more than welcome to find the radius, which would be 4.5, and then do 2 pi r, which would be 2 times 4. You're just back where you started. So for circumference, you have those two options for your formula. So now that we're here, all that we're going to do is go ahead and cross multiply. So 360x equals 75 times 9 is 675 pi. Remember, whenever we set up proportions, we're just doing part over whole equals part over whole, and that allows us to cross multiply, divide from there. So then to find x, I'm just going to do 675 divided by 360, and I get that the length of that arc is 1.875, but I need to be careful because it's 1.875 pi, and my units would be yards. That's it. So taking a look at this next one, we need to be careful with reading too, because if this says 150 degrees for this arc, well, that would be different than if it wanted us to find this piece. So it says find the radius of circle G, that's a circle symbol, given the arc length. So I'm not going forwards on this one. It says find the radius. So it wants me to find the radius. Oh, sorry there. It wants me to find the radius, and it gives me the arc length. So if we go back and we look at our formula for arc length, it gives us the arc length. We have the angle. 360 is always there, but I'm going to have to find the circumference and then work backwards to find the radius. So here we go. I know that the angle is going to be 150 over 360, because it's always the angle over 360. Equals, it's not going to be x over the circumference, because I know what x is. They told me that the arc length is 10.5 feet. So that part is going to go on top. So 10.5 would go on top over x. Now I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. So I get 150x equals, so 360 times 10.5 is 3,780. And I'm going to divide both sides by 150, so I know that x is 25.2. Okay, now that's not the radius. That's what goes there. That's the whole. So part over whole equals part of whole. That's the circumference. But I can find the radius when given the circumference. We did this the other day. So if your circumference formula is 2 pi r, and the circumference is 25.2 equals 2 pi r, I can just go backwards. So I found the circumference. I'm going to plug that in for c. And now I'm going to take the pi out. So I'm going to divide both sides by pi. So 25.2 divided by pi is just 8.02. So I have 8.02 equals 2r. And if I divide both sides by 2, then that would just cut that in half. So the radius would be 4.01 feet. And that's it. So a lot of times when we're going forwards in these problems, it's just going to be very, very straightforward. Going back to our formula, it's always just like angle over 360 equals x over either circumference or area, depending on what you're finding. Remember that arc length goes with circumference, like sector area goes with total area. But every now and then we're going to have to work backwards. So for example, this one says, given that the area of this sector is 214.37 centimeters squared, find the area of this circle. There's this weird symbol there. You can just kind of cross it out. So I know the angle, but I need to be careful because it said, given that the area of this, it's this sector right here. So it's going to be 85 over 360. But if they were talking about the blue one, which I think some things got cropped out in this problem, but if they were talking about the blue one, then I would just do 360 minus 85 and then use that. So I'm using this red sector. So 85 over 360 equals, and now I need to be careful. They said given that the area of the sector is 214.37. So that's not the area of the circle, that's the area of the sector. That's the part that's going to go on top. So 214.37. Find the area of the circle, so find x. So from here, we're just going to go ahead and cross multiply. So 85 times x would just be 85x. And then when I cross multiply the other way, I'm going to get a fairly big number. So 360 times 214.37 would be 77,173.2. And what happened in these particular problems was they didn't put it in terms of pi. Like on the last one, same thing. That's why I had to divide out the pi. That's okay. So from there, I'm going to divide both sides by 85, which would make x equal 907.92. Now, if we go back and just double check things, remember, part over whole, we found the whole area of the circle, which the problem said find the area of the circle, which we did. So that's our answer. No need to work backwards from there. That'd just be centimeters squared. So we're going to take a look. We're going to cut out this last one. We don't have to worry about that one. But on this one, it says find the radius of the circle S. So, and it has this shaded region right here. So if I'm finding the radius, I know that I'm going to be working backwards, but let's start with what we know. So we know that I'm going to have the angle over 360. And if I'm talking about the shaded region, that wouldn't be 78. To find that shaded region, I'm going to have to do 360 minus 78. So 360 minus 78 would be 282. Because I'm talking about the shaded region, I don't want 78, I want the rest of it. So 360 minus 78, okay, equals, well, the area of this shaded sector is 20.89 over, I don't know the area of the full circle, there's your x. Now, to complete this problem, we would cross multiply, divide, get x, but then from there, we would need to work backwards to get the radius. So just keep in mind that any problem that says find the radius means that you're going to be working backwards. Or if it says find the area of the full circle, working backwards. But most of your problems are going to be very straightforward, like find the length of the arc, find the area of the sector, which means you're doing that angle over 360 with typically x on top and then circumference or area on the bottom. So keep that in mind and then leave thing in terms of pi as you're doing your work. That's it for today. Good luck on your practice.